Hello guys, welcome to another video. Rimuru x Eminence in Shadow by elite3532. Chapter 20 Finale. The end of this short story. I hope you all liked this adventure. Third POV. A few weeks have passed since the death of Shadow and the world has started to change greatly. Rimuru had how many cards to play, and his main plan was simply focusing the hatred of everyone into one point and killing it. Multiple heroes used their own life to do it, saving everyone they hold dear, but that wasn't something for Rimuru. His goal was to make the world peaceful but also preserving it. He didn't want his world to disappear generations after his natural death because time killed everything. So he had made this plan. Right now the Oriana Kingdom, the Midgard Kingdom and Shadow Garden are under his control. Along that the Elven Nation was basically at his peak. The last thing he needed to do was the cult of Diabolas, and then his goal was basically achieved. As the Beast King follows the strongest, they aren't people Rimuru needed to be wary of. That's why Rimuru was a few weeks away from uniting the world with his plan. But before that he had a promise to keep. He was at the moment in front of the Kagu mansion, at his side his life partner Beatrix. "Rimuru, are you ready?" Turning to the elf, Rimuru asked, as he knew how nervous she was before even entering the carriage to come here. She had spent days preparing for this, for the first time going shopping, buying multiple dresses and gifts. And finally the day has come. Rimuru picked her up and directly went toward the family mansion. Inside was his whole family waiting to meet the one who stole their heir's heart. "Beatrix." "Yes, let's go." Nodding with determination, Rimuru nodded and looked forward. Multiple maids got confirmation and opened the door. Beatrix's heart started to race all the while until it was fully open, and finally multiple figures could be seen welcoming them. "Mrs. Kagu. Welcome home Rimuru-chan, and nice to meet you girlfriend-chan." Smiling joyfully, the mother immediately approached to greet them. Her words made the couple blush a little, but Beatrix didn't mind. In fact, she was quite happy to see her mother-in-law that accessible. It was as if she already agreed to their relationship long before they even met. "Mrs. Kagu. Rimuru told me a lot about you, so be at ease and welcome in the family." Taking the elf hand, Mrs. Kagu was like a ball of joy, yet there was still some doubt in her, and Beatrix noticed it when their hand connected. She felt a tight grip. It was a test for her, and as a warrior she didn't back down, returning the grip. This action made the Kagu mother smile widen before earning an approving nod. "Mrs. Kagu. My, Rimuru sure has good eyes. If only I had the chance to have a partner as good as you." Placing her hand on her cheek, she contemplated with a light joke, sending an emotional jab toward her husband. "Beatrix. Ah yes. Thanks." After this first interaction, Mrs. Kagu got out of the way, revealing the rest of the family. The father looked at the elf and nodded. He wasn't much reverent anyway. As for Rimuru's siblings, there were 3 of them. The first one, Claire, glared at Beatrix for a moment before stopping and approaching the couple. "Claire. We already met, but nice to meet you, Beatrix. It's good to see you again, Claire." Exchanging a quick handshake, Claire didn't let a single second for the elf to breathe as her glare returned with now spark in her eyes. "Claire. I'm really happy to have you in the family. My brother sure is strong to be able to live with such a person." Clear sarcasm and jealousy in her voice, Beatrix smiled, not noticing the animosity. She just thought Claire was a growing woman and acted a little rebel. Completely oblivious of her sister-in-law, her attention then shifted toward the 2 last members of the family while Claire went to Rimuru. This time, the little brother Sid Kagu approached. Immediately Rimuru side-eyed him before returning his attention to Claire. "Sid. Nice to meet you again, Beatrix Oni-san." Bowing quickly, Beatrix nodded in approval. This Sid was different from the leader of Shadow Garden. After killing him and basically turning Shadow Garden into his, he had used his power to rewrite Sid's reality. Now the imposter was gone. Sid Minoru, who had reincarnated into Sid Kagu, was gone. This Sid is the one who should have originally lived. An innocent and decent boy who truly loves his family. "Beatrix. I hope we get along, Sid-kun." After some short talk, Sid went out of the way for Beatrix to meet the last member of the family, a young girl who was recently adopted in the family. Mrs. Kagu had accepted her after Rimuru's direct demand. An orphan girl who had nowhere to go, that's what Rimuru said, and Mrs. Kagu graciously agreed. "Ada. Nice to meet you, I'm Ada Kagu." Contrary to her usual sleeping self, she was dressed in a small robe. Her childlike appearance made people forget her true age, which was only 1 year younger than Sid. Beatrix found the girl cute and immediately went for a handshake, which Ada accepted. Beatrix. I didn't know Rimuru had another younger sister. Ada. I was recently added to the family, so please take care of me. Bowing lightly, Rimuru smiled warmly at the scene. He was a bit reluctant, scared of how Ada would act, but the girl seemed fine. Ada. Let's take care of Rimuru ni together, Beatrix, UMU. Both found some complicity in this. Later on they would be best friends, often hanging out with each other. The day then pursued with Beatrix learning more about her new family. She also spent some time with Rimuru's siblings while he talked in private with his parents. Training with Claire and Sid are having an intense conversation about the magnetization of magic to allow easier deformation and manipulation of a material type of magic. Well, her conversations with Ada were always one-sided, as Ada would just start rolling information that only her and Rimuru understand. Beatrix could only nod and reply shortly to not interrupt the girl. Every second she felt as if her brain was getting sucked by a black hole, overcharging with imaginary heat coming out of her forehead. After that, the whole family went into the dining room for a feast-like dinner, laughing, eating, smiling. Beatrix in the middle of the dinner looked at everyone. They were all so kind to her, a small tear escaped her eyes. Beatrix. I missed this feeling. Mother, sister. I'm doing good on my own now. My only wish would be that Alpha was here as well. Smiling, she saw her mother-in-law pouring more alcohol in her glass. Taking it without hesitation, the dinner continued for hours. Until the bell of midnight rang through the small city. Excusing themselves, Rimuru and Beatrix had gone on the balcony to have some fresh air. Also a short intimate moment. Rimuru. So how do you find my family, Beatrix? They are full of warmth. I'm glad to have met such people. Still smiling, Beatrix was a little bit drunk. Her body was shaking a little from both the alcohol and the fresh and cold breeze. Both were sitting there on a cold bench staring at the night sky. Hundreds of stars could be seen. Beatrix then let her head fall on Rimuru's shoulder, enjoying the calm and silent night. Beatrix. Thank you, Rimuru. I think I would have one day lost myself if I didn't meet you. Rimuru. Everything for my wife. Beatrix. You know, after my mom died I always feel empty, then my sister too. I had set my whole life to find this niece of mine but never thought what to do after. Rimuru listened to her quietly, her voice was full of emotion and sorrow. Beatrix. But then I met you. You painted this dull life of mine with colors, and for that I will forever be grateful. Rimuru. You don't have to be, you also changed my life. Nodding, Beatrix closed her eyes, her mind started to cut off, but then, a realization struck her. She finally registered Rimuru's words and frantically opened her eyes. Turning to Rimuru, he only widened his smile while his eyes were locked on the sky. Beatrix. Did you just call me wife? Rimuru took a moment without answering. This few seconds of silence turned into days if not weeks for Beatrix, her breath cutted as she anxiously waited for an answer. And finally, Rimuru's hand reached for his pocket and took out a small box. He didn't get on his knees or do anything extravagant. Instead, he just opened the bow and shifted his attention to Beatrix, his eyes directly staring into hers. Rimuru. I never thought about this before, but I'm sure now. I will bet my life on you, Beatrix, so will you marry me? Showing her the beautiful ring that was hidden inside the box, Beatrix felt every emotion a happy woman could have. Happiness filled her as she lost control over her tears. Silent cry became louder as she quickly nodded. Beatrix. Yes, I will. Taking her now fiancé into a hug, both were now engaged. This was something Rimuru had to think and plan a lot before doing. He had talked this out with his parents earlier and they gladly supported him. Even if the chance for him to get rejected, he was still nervous about this. In both of his lives, he never fell in love, and even as a prince, he never engaged himself to someone. And there he was, hugging the woman of his life, a ring in his hand. They stayed like this for long minutes before breaking it. Beatrix was still letting out tears of happiness as Rimuru slowly took her hand. The finger was an artifact in itself made for the occasion by Ada. It would perfectly fit anyone's finger. Slowly sliding the ring, both Rimuru and Beatrix started to remember all the time they had together. Until it was finally done, Beatrix was now officially Rimuru's wife. Ada Pav, I smiled warmly as I heard those words escape my now older brother's mouth. I was currently hiding behind the wall. On the other side was Rimuru ni proposing to Beatrix. I can't say I'm not envious of her, but I'm fine with my current situation. Olivier. They sure are cute, aren't they? Turning to my right was Rimuru-ni's personal maid, though now I knew her true identity, the legendary hero Olivier. I still don't know how she and Rimuru are acquainted, and I don't really want to know. Olivier is actually a very nice person and we are really similar on certain points. Eta. They are. We stared at each other for a few seconds before looking down. We both knew at the end we were defeated. Beatrix had done this while we could only accept the second prize. Third Pav. A few days passed then and finally time had come for Rimuru. He was standing on a hill glaring down at a hidden base of the Diabola's cult. Inside were all the knights of the round. This was basically their headquarters and where they had most of their valuables and research. Rimuru. It's time. Looking down, he thought about his plan one last time before stretching his hand and manifesting his everythingness. A few seconds passed and the remains of Diabola's body located inside the base started to react. This startled everyone inside. They tried to take action without knowing that only a nightmare would await them. Minutes passed and finally the whole base blew up as a gigantic monster formed. Diabola's, the demon who was considered a legend of destruction, was back. It wasn't the same Diabola's Rimuru had fought in his former life. This one was just an empty body whose purpose was destruction. Rimuru doesn't have to hold back now, and the mistake leading to his first death won't be repeated. Rimuru. We can finally settle this Diabola's, while we still have to wait a little. Right now, the first phase was a success. Now is the start of the second phase. Rimuru just watched as Diabola's started rampaging. The surrounding mountains turned to dust and soon enough he left this isolated area for cities and kingdoms. The nearest nation was wiped out and soon, the entire world started to take defensive measures. Despair and fear slowly installed in them. It was only 2 days later when Rimuru finally decided to act, as yet another kingdom was about to get stumbled on. Everyone watched horrified as the demon couldn't be killed or defeated. The strongest warrior already tried and got utterly destroyed. This was when, in a trail of light, the Forgotten Prince appeared, cutting down the demon's legs before smashing him into a mountain kilometers away. The hero has arrived and for the first time, the whole world united behind his back. They all cheered for his victory and witnessed the ultimate power that is everythingness. The cult was no more as all the higher members were killed and without a proper leader, the remaining members were lost. Their hierarchy made that lower members don't get any important information and this led to their ultimate demise. At the very end, Rimuru defeated Diabola's after an epic battle. He had displayed multiple exaggerated actions to mark the history and the minds of everyone. Ultimately, Rimuru totally destroyed the demon after using his Nova Breaker. After the fight, Rimuru had announced that he will help everyone in rebuilding their land and that's how the first era of peace started. War was no longer as everyone understood how horrific the fear of losing their home was. And in the shadow, Rimuru had the members of Shadow Garden kill any greedy high-graded noble or royalty. Nothing could go on his way to ultimate peace now. Aurora Pav, he really did it, huh? Rimuru is surely an anomaly, and to think he went to resurrect my true body into a mindless monster so he could hold on to the promise he made to me. Haha, what a crazy guy, but that's why I like him. My brother was always this cautious but still won't hesitate doing the craziest things to accomplish his goal. Ah, I really wish I could be at his side now. No, I guess I'm just tired of living this eternal life. First as Aurora Nebula, then as Diabola's, then as the Witch of Calamity and now as a ghost. I just wish I could disappear, but watching my brother accomplish what we always wanted makes my heart race. I was now inside Claire, who was the only good host in the current era. Once again I was Rimuru's sister. I guess fate was really set on us to be siblings. While our power could be called the highest form of fate, still it hurt a little, the fact that I would only be able to see Rimuru while he couldn't. Peace was now on, so there was no way Claire needed my help. I guess it can't be helped. When there is a winner, there is a loser. I can't say I am among the first category. Aurora. How unfortunate. I muttered as my eyes wandered around the room. Claire was currently in a room with multiple people. Family members, friends or just acquaintances. Today was her birthday and coincidentally mine too, so they all came here to celebrate. Soon enough, my eyes once again shifted on Rimuru, but something was different. I thought he was staring at Claire, but clearly the feeling and emotion he held in those golden eyes of his were destined to me. Aurora. What? Rimuru, happy birthday. As soon as those words left his mouth, I could see Claire beam up in happiness. But at the same time, I felt as if he was telling this to me too. Could he see my existence inside Claire? Aurora. Peef, haha, how am I kidding? Rimuru is an anomaly he surely knew for a long time now. That I was in Claire. I chuckled before returning my attention to Rimuru. A smile formed on my face. I closed my eyes as my smile widened brightly. Aurora. Thank you, the end.